This is how Republican Harriet Hageman of Wyoming began her town hall just a few hours ago.
The opportunity to do town halls, because it lets me come here, give you an update on what I'm doing back in Washington, D.C., and then I'm going to give you an opportunity to ask me questions. Before we get there, however, I get it that there are people here who dislike me, but there are also people here who want to hear what I have to say. And if you have so little respect for our process and for what we are in this country, then I would ask you to leave.
But they didn't leave. Voters in red states like Congresswoman Hageman's are frustrated and using that frustration to confront their Republican lawmakers. And in Wyoming, where Liz Cheney was seen as too liberal to keep her seat, voters are booing Elon Musk.
I voted in favor of the continuing resolution, or CR, which extends funding through the fiscal year until September 30th. It keeps the lights on for President Trump and DOJ to continue their work.
Congresswoman Hageman's town hall was held tonight in Laramie, where more than 25 years ago, two men targeted gay college student Matthew Shepard. They tortured him, tied him to a fence, and left him for dead. The horrific story and the effort to confront the deadly bigotry was made into an award-winning play and film, The Laramie Project. It is the reason millions of people know the town of Laramie. And here is how Congresswoman Hageman in Laramie responded to a question about trans and non-binary people.
This person would like to know how I am going to help protect the rights of trans and non-binary people. I don't even know what that means.
Joining us now, Democratic Congresswoman Andrea Salinas of Oregon. Congresswoman, thank you for being here. You held an in-person town hall yesterday. What concerns did your constituents raise?
Thank you, Jonathan. My constituents are outraged right now. They're outraged, they're scared, they're really concerned about things like Medicaid, Social Security, Medicare going away. I represent a really working class district here in the Willamette Valley of Oregon. These are people who work hard every single day, people who are farmers, farm workers, people who are trying to raise their kids, trying to make ends meet, not being able to afford food because of the sky high prices of eggs and just everyday products. And we also have a lot of manufacturing here in this district. So it's a very working class district. And they're outraged right now. They're so angry that Donald Trump, our president, would hand over the keys to an unelected, unconfirmed Elon Musk, who is a billionaire who wants to take away these really critical programs and critical health care.
What would you say to your Republican colleagues who've been avoiding town halls?
Well, the town hall I held last night was in a very red part of my district. I did not even win this district. And I got cheers every time I spoke out and basically said, all the decisions I am making are based on what I'm hearing. I'm hearing from my growers who are losing out on USDA, U.S. Department of Agriculture loan access, on small business access. Wineries are worried about the tariffs that they're seeing. So I would tell Republicans to stand up, show up, and then vote for their constituents. But they need to be heard first. And Republicans need to listen to them because they're going to be in a world of hurt in a couple of years.
Congresswoman, are any of the Trump voters having buyer's remorse, you think?
I actually think they are. As I mentioned, I went to a town hall and we had, a few hundred people at this town hall. And for the most part, I heard cheers. And I did not hear the same thing that Congresswoman Hagerman heard at her town hall in Laramie. And I know there were folks who definitely voted for Trump. And I said that. And I said, I do believe that people who voted for Trump were lied to. They were sold a bag of goods. It was not honest. He talked about some of the same things I talked about during the campaign cycle. He talked about lowering costs, bringing down the cost of everyday items. That is not happening when we know chips manufacturing may not continue here in the United States the way Congress had intended. We know that, again, these tariff wars that are going on are only going to increase those prices. And we produce a lot of them right here in my district and here in Oregon. And so I think people are starting to realize and wake up. Farmers and growers across the United States who want a strong farm bill, want those price supports, want to pass down their farm to the next generation. They're worried. They're just as worried as people who are, in the manufacturing sectors. And so, yeah, they feel lied to. I do think there's remorse. I think we need to give them the space to say that too.
Congressman, speaking of tariffs, Donald Trump's tariffs threats on wine from Europe is expected to make wine in Oregon more expensive. I heard you say you're in Willamette, which has great wine, by the way, I will say. Axios interviewed the founder of Ribbon Ridge Winery in Newberg, Oregon, and he said, quote, "Wine shouldn't be upon an international push and shove trade competition. It should represent a celebratory, sustainable product that brings us together at the table," Harry Peterson Nedry, the founder of Ribbon Ridge Winery in Newberg, told Axios, "This damage is not only to winery producers, but consumers and the broader network of businesses such as restaurants, retailers, and distributors," he said. Can you talk briefly about the impact tariffs, specifically tariffs, will have on your district?
It will crush a community like the Willamette Valley. I've been telling folks, I heard the day that Trump declared that he was putting 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico. I was getting ready to board my flight out to Washington, D.C. from Oregon. And my phone started blowing up. It was several of my wineries. They were so worried. And they said, "Look, Andrea, 50% of our exported wine goes to Canada. We're getting phone calls right now from Canadians basically telling us we're taking product off the shelf. We are canceling contracts. We are going to be retaliatory and make sure that you hurt as well." And knowing that when 50% of the wine that is produced in Oregon goes to Canada, that is clearly going to hurt. And as you mentioned, and as Ribbon Ridge Winery mentioned, it's not going to be just the wineries themselves. It's the entire supply chain. It's the ecosystem. It is these small communities that rely on these businesses, on the work, and all of the other supply chains that support these businesses. This is a community here in the Willamette Valley that is going to be crushed by this.
Congresswoman Andrea Salinas of Oregon, thank you very much for coming to The Last Word.